Hi, I'm Angie with Core Star Pilates, and today we're going to explore hip mobility. Hip mobility. What that means to me is range of motion in the hip joint and having the stability to support that range of motion. So we're going to do a few exercises that's going to take your hip through its various ranges of motion. Then we're going to do a couple of glute exercises that's going to help support that hip stability. And then we're going to finish with a couple of stretches, one for the hip flexor and one for the glutes. We're going to use a couple of different props. So I have a roller. The roller is going to be used for a prop for the leg. So it could be a yoga blocks, it could be a bolster, it could be a rolled up blanket. Just we're going to be laying on our side, and I want something to have the top leg supported in that position. So I'm going to use a roller. Feel free to use whatever works for you. And then we are going to need something to help support the leg for the first part of the exercises. So I'm going to use a flex band. You can use a yoga strap. You could use a long belt. It is going to be wrapped around your leg, and you're going to lower and lift your leg up and down using this to help support the weight of your leg. So whatever you're using does need to be long enough that when you lower your leg down, the ends don't go flying out of your hands. So I like the flex band for that, but if you have a long belt or yoga strap, those both work as well. If you're having a lot of pain or inflammation in your hip, certainly consult your physician before doing these exercises. Range of motion. So we're going to take the hip joints through different ranges of motions, and we're going to do that laying down. So you can do that on a mat on the floor. You could also do this on a bed if that's better for you. So come on down to your back on your mat or whatever surface you're using. However you need to get down there. If you need any props underneath your head because you look towards the wall behind you instead of up towards the ceiling when you're laying down, feel free. If you need a little extra cushion underneath the pelvis or even your whole spine, if you need a double up mat, if you want an extra blanket, that's fine too. So take whatever prop you're going to use, a belt, yoga strap, or a flex band. Find about the middle of it, and then you're going to bring it around the ball of your foot like so. And then you can have your ends in either both hands, or you can have your ends in one hand. This depends on what prop you're using. A flex band, you could get away with this because you have a little bit of stretch here. So this is your starting position. I've got this on my right leg. My left leg right now I have bent, but I'm actually going to straighten that out. So you can be straight leg. It could be a slight bend. It could be a big bend. We are going to go out and across at one point, so having the leg at least a little bit out of the way is fine. You can even put a prop underneath that knee if you need a little extra support there. That will work too. So the purpose of this prop is to help support the weight of your leg so you can get range of motion without having to do too much work. So I want you to find a little connection to your core here just to help support the work. Your pelvis is going to move a little bit, and that's okay. But use the band to help lift and lower your leg. So light connection to your core, and we're going to lower that leg down as far as it wants to go, and then we're going to lift it up again as far as it wants to go. So just finding the range of motion in this plane. So this is mimicking, well, not really walking because your leg doesn't come that far forward unless you're in the mystery of silly walks. So lower and lift using your prop to help support the weight of the band. And we're going to do that one more time. And then we're going to lift it up. Now I'm going to take both ends into my right hand, and I'm going to let my leg come out to the right side, keeping my left hip a little bit anchored down, but it's okay if it lifts up a little bit. And then I'm going to take that leg across. I'm going to switch the band over to my other side. I'm going to let that right leg go across to the left, letting my right hip lift up. And then we'll switch that out. So we're going to go backwards and forwards. And again, you could keep the ends in the same hand, especially if you have a flex band, because you got a little bit of give here. So you don't have to let the torso, the shoulders rotate as much. If you're with a yoga strap or a belt, you might want to switch hands just so that your body doesn't follow. The next thing you know, you're on your side. So we're going to go out and across. And we'll do that 2 more times each side. Out and across. And one more time. Only as far as it feels okay. So if you get to a point you're like, that's as far as I want to go, then stop there. All right, so the next piece, the last piece here, we're going to take the leg and kind of reach it out at about a 45-degree angle. I've got my ends in the right hand. I'm going to rotate the leg out so the toes are pointing out to the side, the heels are turning in. And I'm going to bring that heel towards my left hip. And I'm going to use my left hand to grab on the flex band and help pull it in. And then I'm going to press it back out. So really reaching through my heel, and then I'm going to pull that heel in towards my left hip. Now the first few, it may not come that close in, and that's okay. The more you do this, the closer that heel is going to get to your hip. It does not have to meet, right? It does not have to go all the way there. Maybe you're only getting to your knee, and that's okay too. So whatever your range is, just explore and see what feels good for you here. We're going to do this one more time, and then we're going to switch sides. So bring that in, and then we're going to bring it up. You can open that up and then just go ahead and switch out. And we'll go with the second side. So right leg can stay bent, or you can reach it out. You can have a prop underneath the knee. Ends in both hands or one hand. And here we go. We're going to lower and lift. So reaching through the leg. You could do a pointed. You could do flexed. What feels best here? I like flexed. I feel like I get a nice stretch along the back of the leg as my leg comes up. A little hamstring, a little calf stretch. Let's do that one more time. And now we're going to go out and across. So the leg goes out to the side, and it comes up and it goes across. Out and across. You can switch the ends from hand to hand. You could keep it in one hand. This is where having the leg a little bit straighter is nice because it gives you a little bit more range of motion. That left hip is lifting up as my leg crosses over towards the right. The right hip's lifting just a little bit as my leg opens to the left. Just a little bit. And let's do that one more time. Out and across. And here comes Mac to give us his opinion. All right, so here's the number 4. So you're going to reach that leg out. You're going to rotate it. You're going to grab with your right hand and pull that left heel towards your right hip. And then you're going to press it out. We're going to pull it in and press it out. Pull it in and press. About 2 more times. Pull it in and press. I like a flexed foot for this one. Pull in, press out. You can go ahead and lower that leg down. Release your ends here and see what you feel. You can absolutely do this 2-3 times through each side. What feels best for you? I definitely like doing it at least twice through. 3 times to me is the Goldilocks number. You might like 4. So do that as many times as you feel like you need. Moving on to some glute exercises. So this is where you're going to want a prop to use underneath the top leg as we lay on our side. So like I said earlier, you could use a roller, a couple of yoga blocks, a bolster, just something you can put underneath your leg from knee to about ankle to help support the weight of it. We are going to put a little bit of weight into it, so it's got to be able to stand up to that. So come on down to your side, whatever side you want to start on. I'm going to start on my left side, and I'm going to bring my right leg up on to this mini roller, like so. Left leg is going to be out long below. You can have a slight bend here, that's fine. Your bottom arm can definitely support your head, or you can have a pillow or a blanket folded up supporting your head too. So from here, what we're going to do is we're going to find lateral rotators in the hip. So if you think about a traditional bikini line that goes diagonally across your cheek, then we're going to follow that line and find those muscles that go across that line. So maybe reach back and give yourself a little poke. And what I want you to do is fire those muscles and then see about maybe unseating the knee. It's not going to go particularly far. We're just trying to find those muscles and get them to fire. So I'm not trying to lift this particularly high. I'm putting a little bit of weight into my ankle, and then I'm going to release it. So we're going to fire those muscles, and there'll be a slight lift, and then release. We're going to fire and a slight lift. The more you do this, the easier it gets to find them. Fire and maybe a slight lift. And we'll try that one more time. Fire and a slight lift, and then go ahead and release. Now from here, we're going to take that roller away. I'm going to move it to the back, and then we're going to go with hips stacked, knees stacked. You can be either 90 degree at the hip, or you can move so that your feet are a bit more in line with your hips back here, sits bones. What feels best for you and your body? So what feels best here is going to be what's going to work for you, right? So from here, finding those same muscles, I want you to fire those muscles, keep the ankles together or the heels together, and then lift that knee up. So now you're getting a bigger range of motion. It also means a little bit more work for those glutes. So fire those glutes and lift up. So this is the gluteus medius, and the lateral rotators are working. We're going to fire and lift and lower. We're going to do that 2 more times. Fire and lift and lower. 1 more time. Fire and lift and lower. Now we're going to turn around and do that on the other side. So you can just roll to the other side. I'm going to stay facing the camera. So move your prop around. Come down onto your side. Support your head. I'm going to use my arm to support my head. Make sure you're supported from ankle to about knee. This roller is just long enough. If this is any shorter, it wouldn't work. So hips are about stacked. Bottom leg out long. Could be a slight bend if you need to. Find the bikini line muscles, those gluteus medius and the lateral rotators. Maybe poke yourself in the bum. You're going to press your ankle in. Fire glutes. See if you can lift that knee just enough to unseat it. Maybe a piece of paper underneath, and then release it down. Fire it and release. Again, more you do this, maybe a little bit easier it is to find. You do have a little bit of connection to your core here, just to help support your work. Fire. Maybe there's a little lift. One side might feel completely different than the other side, and that's okay. This side for me is a little bit trickier to find. And that being said, if you do have a side that's a little bit trickier to define, start with your stronger side first, because that's going to tell your body this is what it should feel like. And then it might have an easier time finding the same muscles on the more challenging side. Let's do that 1 more time. Fire and maybe a tiny lift and release. All right, so again, we're going to get the prop out of the way. You're going to find what range here feels good for you. I like my feet in line with my sits bones. You can absolutely be up here if that feels better for you. What feels best for your hips? All right, so again, light touch to your core. Find those same muscles. We're going to fire. We're going to lift that leg up. Doesn't have to be high, right? We're just getting a little bit bigger range of motion in this work now. So you're going to use those muscles to lift the leg, but then keep them on as the leg lowers down. Let's do that 3 more times. We're going to lift the knee and then lower down. So you get a nice rotation in the hip joint and lower down. And 1 more time, lift and lower down. And then we are done with that. So those exercises are going to help you with your hip stability. Okay, let's get some stretching in. So we're going to do a stretch. I'm going to use a roller for this first stretch. Again, you can use anything that will help prop your hips up. So yoga block, a rolled up blanket, you could use a ball, you could use a mobility desk, just something that's going to lift your hips up. You could also do this first stretch, this hip flexor stretch, laying on the side of your bed, so your body is lined up to the side of the edge. So if this was my bed, this is the edge of the bed, you would lie down next to the side of your bed, and then you would just let your leg hang off the side of the bed, and that will target the same area if you don't want to put something underneath your pelvis, because that's what we're going to do. So come down to your mat, and then we're going to put something, whatever block or prop you're using, underneath your pelvis. So I'm going to lift my hips up, and I'm going to roll my roller underneath, and you want the center point of your prop to be about the center of your sacrum, so somewhere between the very top of your pelvis and your tailbone. That's where you want it to be. And you want a little bit of an imprint here. So from here, you can hold on. You're going to bring both legs into tabletop and maybe a little bit past. So I'm going to grab hold of my left, and if this is a little too unstable, you could just keep holding on and not grab hold. But I'm going to grab hold of my left. I'm going to take my right leg. I'm going to straighten it out a little bit high. I'm going to have a connection to my core because I'm thinking imprint here. And I'm going to lower my leg down towards the floor. I'm going to listen to my hip, and I'm going to stop when my hip says that's enough of a stretch. So you may not get all the way down to the floor. Like right about there is where my hip says that's enough. If I go any deeper, it might be too much. I do want to try to keep my leg relatively straight. A little bend is okay, but the more you bend your knee, you're going to get a little bit out of the hip for the stretch. So try to keep the leg a little straight, and that's going to go a little bit deeper into your hip. If you make it all the way down to the floor, kudos to you. It's not the goal. The goal is just to open up the hip. If you are down on the floor, you're a little bit deeper, see if you can go a little bit deeper into that imprint. And then just reach to your toes as you reach that pivot bone up towards the sky. We're going to take a few breaths here, and then we're going to switch to the other side. So you can hold on to that knee. Left leg goes out. We're going to lower it down as far as I want you to go. You'll see at this side, my hip can go a little bit further. So I can take that foot almost to the ground here. Might even make it to the ground. Maybe not. I get a little bit more openness on my left side than I do on my right side. And that's just how my body is. My right hip has always been a little bit more tight than my left. So I get a little bit more range of motion on my left than I do on my right. So that is your hip flexor stretch. You can absolutely do that stretch 2-3 times on each hip. When you come back down, maybe just take a moment, see how the back of the pelvis feels, right? And now we're going to go into a glute stretch. So I like a simple number 4 stretch here. So we're going to cross one foot over. So this is my right foot. I'm crossing the right ankle over my left. I like starting by just kind of pushing away just to get a little space in the hip. And then you can go ahead and grab your legs and pull in. Maybe a flex foot. A flex foot, especially on the top leg, is kind of nice. So maybe this is enough, and you're going to feel that stretch right through there. Maybe this is enough. Maybe you take the arms out and you can shift your weight over to the bottom hip. So that'll be my left hip I'm switching over to. Or, this is a nice one, grab hold of that top leg. So kind of foot and knee. And you're going to pull that leg in towards you. You're going to reach that bottom leg out long and then down to the mat. So this is kind of like an upside down pigeon. So this is another nice way to find a glute stretch. And doing this upside down pigeon is nice because it's not putting any extra pressure on your knee or your ankle or your hip like you do in a traditional pigeon pose. And then we're going to release that, and we'll do that on the other side. So I'm going to cross left foot over the right leg. Again, I like starting with a little push away, and then I'm going to pull the legs in. You can stay here. You can rock the weight over onto that bottom hip. So this would be the right. Or you could grab that top leg, pull in towards the body as you reach that right leg out. You get a nice stretch in those glutes. And then go ahead and release that. And again, you can do this 1 or 2 times. And there are many ways to do that number 4 stretch. That's just one of the nicer ways that I like doing it. I hope you're feeling a little bit more openness in your hips. You can certainly keep coming back to this video and keep practicing this at home. And I thank you for joining me.